Yeah, here, look at this. Pesach. Take a look at Pesach. Absolutely, you would hold this. This is the Bet Yosef. The Bet Yosef is writing on what the Tur wrote. So he says, Devash shel goyim en mahzikim bo isur. That was the Tur, right? You could buy honey. You don't have to worry about it. So he writes this. He says, where does it start? One second. So they're talking about a problem on Pesach. That he says, Rabbeinu Peretz kitavot yesh lo osro, in the second line, towards the end of the second line. Lefi sheregilin le'arev bo hakemach o hasolet. Rabbeinu Peretz said that it's problematic on Pesach because they would add into the dvash, they would add into the honey, flour, or type of flour, different type of flour. So Maran writes in the Bet Yosef, look, if you see them taking the honey directly from the beehive, obviously that's not a problem. If you're purchasing it from the goy, then you're more worried. Why? Because maybe they add, Rabbeinu Peretz is writing, maybe they add some flour in the honey. So this is what Maran writes. So he says, so Maran says, look, this whole worry about the honey, Eni makir. I never heard of it. I don't recognize it. Why? Shafilu noda beverur shenitarev bo kemach osolet. Even if you know for sure there is flour in the honey, says Maran. He would be thrown out of the Beit Din so fast. Maran's saying, even if I know that there is flour in the honey. What's honey? Does honey make flour hametz? How do you make matzah? Not with flour? People forget, flour is not hametz. When does flour become hametz? When it's mixed with water, it becomes hametz. But if you mix it with honey, it's not become hametz. So Maran is saying, who cares that they put the flour in the honey? It's not hametz. He says, kemach solet ma bikach. Who cares? Me perotu. We consider honey like me perot. What's me perot? It's fruit juice. Fruit juice is not marmitz. Oh, you want to say? Oh, I hear what you want to say, says Maran. He says, look, you want to say maybe there's some water included in it also. Okay, I hear, he says, maybe there's water, I don't know. And as a matter of fact, they say some solet, the way that they make solet is that they soak it in water first and then they grind it down. He goes, but otherwise, that's Pesach. Yeah, that's Pesach. Do I know that there's honey? I don't assume. And so he goes on and he says, look at what he says. He says maybe they put water in it. Shemer irvu bo gamkin mayim. Demei piroti mayim machmitzim. You want to tell me that maybe they're actually adding water into it, and so therefore, if I have fruit juice plus water, it will become hametz? Yeah, that's true. It would become hametz. Ken ve'afilu hachi nira de'en ne'esor. Maran says, you know what? I'll tell you what. I still don't think it's asur. Why? Mibnei hashasha zo de hashasha rechokai. He goes, what are you talking to me about? What kind of crazy worry is this? Maybe they put water in the thing together with the... What kind of craziness? It's such a hashasha rechoka le'areh bo shnei devarim. Next words. Ve'chu lehai lo mehazekina nisura. We do not assume isur to such a degree. I tell you, sometimes I think, I was so fortunate. I was telling Sina, I was so fortunate this week. I had the opportunity to speak to some students at Cambridge. I spoke to about 50 students in Cambridge. The subject of the lecture was, has atheism opened the door for God? I'll put it up somewhere in here. It was a very good lecture, great kids, whatever. Before I went to speak with the kids, they let me see some of the fragments from the Cairo Geniza. So they asked me if I want to see it. I said, look, I know the Rambam was in Cairo, and there's definitely going to be something in there from Rambam. I'll go. So they knew that I love the Rambam. They knew. And so they waited to show me that for us. So I walk in, and very interesting things they're showing me. One of the things they show me is a letter from Maran, Rabbi Yosef Karo. Right? He didn't write the letter in his own handwriting. Somebody wrote it for him, demanding from the Beit Din that a husband pay his wife what he owes her, for the children and so on and so forth. But it's signed Yosef Karo. Right? So you see Maran's signature on the thing right there in front of you. Beautiful. Going around showing me all different kinds of things. And then he opens up, he goes, here, he gives me a page in plastic. Yeah. I know Rambam's handwriting. I can tell it in a second. I know Rambam's handwriting. I've never actually seen a man, actually held, but I've seen, photographs. So he gives it to me. And I say, what is this? He goes, it's a page from the Moreh Nevuchim. And I'm holding this page. It's not a picture. It's this page was on the desk of the Rambam. His ink, his handwriting. He has crossouts. You see, that's the most beautiful. I was telling you, that's the most beautiful part. You see, he's thinking, he's writing. Cross-out. Now, we won't say it this way. We'll say it this way. And I started crying. I could not. I was just completely overwhelmed from holding this piece of paper. Because to me, it's a love letter. You understand? To me, this man wrote 850 years ago a letter to me. He didn't know me, obviously. But he wrote it to whoever's going to read it, and it's going to mean something. And he's standing before you. And he's writing this to you. I'm telling you, it was the most moving, overwhelming experience of my life. But there's something else. Why am I telling you this? Not time to share. I mean, I love to share with you. It's fine. But why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because Rambam took the time to dip a quill in ink and to write on this page, on these pages, on the hundreds of pages, on whatever it was. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. It was expensive. You think paper was cheap? It wasn't cheap. I had other things. There's other things I have from the Rambam. People sent him hundreds of questions. So he writes on the page of the question. Chashulam, you get a new piece of paper. Oh, who had paper? I'm gonna risk taking a fresh new piece of paper to answer your question. I'll turn the thing on the back, and I'll write the answer on the back. Everything I'll send it back to you. So he writes the jawab, the answer, and he writes the answer. Puts on the thing. People don't realize. They didn't have computers and word processors and dictating machine. This was Mesirut Nefesh. Mesirut Nefesh. To sit and to write, to understand, dipping the quill and writing out these things, crossing it out, making sure it is. This is the Maran, the Bet Yosef. Look what he's writing to us. He goes, look, I don't think we have to be Oser. And when we disregard what it is that they write, it's basically spitting at them. You know what? I don't care that you took all of those nights with a candle at your desk and when everybody else was sleeping and you're writing for me to be able to read this. I'm mahmir. I'll be mahmir. Who said you have the right to be mahmir? No, I'm serious. Who said that you have the right to be mahmir? What happened to Rabotecha Arishonim Sheba'u Lefanecha? What about all of the tsar that they put themselves through to be able to deduce halakha? What really is the halakha? Whatever happened to Torah Hasa al Mamonam Shel Israel? That the Torah is concerned about the money of Israel? That he's sitting here trying to say, you know something? I think you could buy the honey on Pesach. Why don't you just say like they say today? Okay, so go a week without honey. What's the big deal? Why? Why should you go to the holiday without honey? I don't understand. You shouldn't have honey in your tea or whatever it is. You shouldn't enjoy the dvash. It's a moed. It's a hag. Why should you have to send it? Do you see the fundamental difference in terms of approach? And not only that, he's sitting there and spending all of his time writing out for me this thing. You think this is a nothing excerpt. You want to see what the Bet Yosef? We don't even have the Bet Yosef. Where's the Bet Yosef? How do you not have the Bet Yosef in life? Understand what it is? The massive text that this man wrote. Spending all of his hours trying to deduce what the law is appropriately, not what it is to be easy, but what the actual law is. And we say, nah, shove the whole thing out, big deal. What's the problem? Why should we allow it? And that's the issue. That's genuinely the problem. So what are you saying? You're saying it's the same thing for